Thursday, February 27th. Welcome back to the Damon Bruce Show, and we are thinking out loud today with our good friend Sam Betesh, who has Thinking Out Loud with Andrew Siciliano all up on YouTube and in the game. And it's good to see you again, brother. How you doing?
Oh, it is so good to be here, Damon, and I love this. And yes, please check us out at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. You can also check out Andrew's page at Siciliano Show, but it is Bruce Plus that has really done this for us and really got me fired up about being a part of the YouTube community. And you have led the way. You have blazed a path, Damon. Look at you. We have, though. I got to tell you, my confidence for what happens in the YouTube community is based almost entirely on what you've built here. And I'm not lying, really, because it is impressive to start with what you don't know is going to be anything and build it into something. And you've undoubtedly got a beautiful following here.
Thank you. The way that I would look at it, if I were you, if I were anybody looking at this, is if that schlub can do it, why can't I? Like, that should be your motivation right there.
Whatever it takes.
If that douchebag can do it, why not me? So it is great to see you, Sam. It really, really is. And boy, we are the perfect guys to tackle the biggest story coming out of Indianapolis, as the thumbnail suggests. We got an NFL insider battle royale to talk about because, look, it's a good thing that men are going to be running in underpants today in Indianapolis because the biggest story so far coming out of the combine is Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport getting into an argument at a Starbucks over a Tom Brady story, which has since taken such a backseat to the media jock sniffing itself. And you and I are a couple former media members. We know that jock sniffing media members.
Could have been us in that Starbucks. Could have been us. Could have been us.
But when they came for them, then they came for me. Look, we need to talk about what happened, and then we'll talk about the fictitious battle royale and who would actually win it. But first of all, Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport are basically on the same story. The story is Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford are, in Vail or somewhere in Utah, wherever they were, some posh ski slope, and the two of them are meeting. Is this tampering? ? Asked Jordan Schultz. Quickly, Ian Rappaport, who is connected with agents, and I think Don Yee even called and said, no. This was a by chance meeting, and Ian went public with that. And if you are, if you believe that just by happenstance, Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford happen to be in the same place at the same time, I can't invite you to my Thursday night poker game fast enough. I mean, you are a sucker and a rube. Brady is way too competitive for anything to just happen by accident. We all know that. So you got these two guys with conflicting stories in line at a Starbucks. The barista probably wrote their names down wrong on the cup, so everybody's pissed. There's not enough Sarah McLachlan coming out of the Muzak to calm it all down, and a verbal accosting happens.
My favorite part is actually that they were not even in line. I believe the way the story goes, Rappaport's having a conversation with an agent. So Rappaport's having his own Starbucks meeting, and then Schultz comes up and taps him on the shoulder. We need, hashtag we need to talk. And then, and then it becomes, we don't need to talk about anything. I will say one thing about the Starbucks. This is not a Starbucks. Within Indianapolis, this is the Starbucks. Because what happens is I would imagine it is this one. I have heard that this is the Starbucks because so many people, in other words, not that there's paparazzi necessarily in Indy, but this is the Starbucks to hang out at. If you want to meet people, if you want to see deals going down, this is the Starbucks to be at this week at the Combine. So this is a hotbed of these encounters, and it's really no surprise that it would be this location that this happened.
It's very clear there is no TMZ Indianapolis, or else we'd already have some graining.
But we may moving forward. We may and we should. By the way, the Combine, you and I have spoken about what it is to be at the Super Bowl city the week of the Super Bowl. I'm not talking about Super Bowl Sunday. I'm talking about everything that leads up to that day. It's a sports media convention. And the Combine is that plus the team representatives and executives. So it's actually that on steroids. This really is the mecca of the backdoor conversations of what happens in the NFL. So if you are interested, you should be there.
That's why it is, beware all rumors week. It is judge your information carefully week. There is a lot of bullshit that comes out of the Combine.
Yes.
And a lot of that bullshit is intentionally planted for reasons that, just this is why it's chess and not checkers, everybody. And so it's interesting to see it all go down, and everyone who was in that Starbucks must have said, wow. What I want to know is, how bad does like a tongue lashing actually need to be to qualify to graduate all the way to a verbal accosting?
What volume? It's really a volume conversation. Okay. Really, I think it comes down to what volume based on your square footage in your Starbucks. And I don't know how big. I'm imagining this is a smaller Starbucks, and the volume level is what, if everyone has to turn around, that is an altercation. Okay. That's what I would say, right? If everyone in the place now has to stop what they're doing to wonder what is happening over there, that's an altercation. Okay. That's it. That's what I'll say, right? I mean, just think about being at school, right? I mean, if you're on the playground at school, it's when the circle surrounds the fight that it is now an altercation, right? So that's, I think, what we're looking at.
When in doubt, go back to those playground rules. They still exist. Thank you, Sammy. This is why it's good to have you here. It really is. So, look, we've got this happening, and obviously nothing happened, but NFL security was made aware of it.
Notified. Yes.
Let's just be completely honest. Neither Ian Rappaport nor Jordan Schultz has thrown or taken a punch in their lives. Now, maybe Ian Rappaport comes from a more of a working class background. I don't know. What I thought was the other really interesting element of this story is to find out that Jordan Schultz is the son of former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, which means he grew up with a silver coffee spoon in his mouth. And it sort of, again, do I respect your career as much when your daddy's rich? The answer is automatically no. There's no doubt that Jordan Schultz, I'm sure he's worked hard to become whatever he is, but he had $1 million of daddy's dollars getting that curtain open for him, getting behind the scenes and in the right meeting that gets you the opportunity. And when your daddy's a billionaire, life is easier, and that is undeniable. So Jordan Schultz being outed as the former son, or I guess he's still a current son, but the former CEO of Starbucks. First of all, if your dad was the CEO of Starbucks, why are you trying to squabble up in a Starbucks?
Or maybe that's the spot, right? Or maybe that's where you've got backup always, right?
Does he? Because I'm going to tell you right now, former CEO of Starbucks means, he was bought out. There was a golden parachute. As part of that golden parachute, I would say, Dad, the entire family needs lifetime gold card. Free Starbucks in every Starbucks in the world.
Just like a key card getting into an office building. That is a free drip everywhere you go. Yeah, that's what I would think you would have. And nor do you need it, by the way. But I'll say this. I met Jordan a little bit through Colin had him on a show a few times when Jordan was sort of, up and coming. And Colin's been great with this. Kevin Clark, Jordan Schultz. Colin is really good at sort of identifying this guy's got good information. This guy's got a good story here and there. And Jordan, over the years, has had some interesting stories. We all get so used to what Woj used to do, and Rappaport, and of course Schefter. And you and I know Schefter back when he was, writing in Denver. He was not the Adam Schefter that everyone knows now. But these guys that are making the stories, it changes. The Shams thing sort of, all of a sudden Shams was a guy. Shams used to not be the guy that was just synonymous with every NBA story, right? He was up and coming. Jordan Schultz has been, for quite some time, this sort of up and coming, I've got news. It is a hilarious and random offshoot with the Starbucks connection, but he's been a guy with legitimate stories. And even everyone out there with legitimate stories has a few that maybe didn't go exactly right. You think you're getting good information from somebody and then it ends up being a little off. And so that's the fine line here that Rappaport and Schultz are walking.
So again, there is no entity in the world that loves sniffing its own farts more than the assembled media. So anything that happens with us, we love to report on whatever topic we're there to report on, but not nearly as much as we love to report on us.
And this is the story right now. And of course, no one has ran a 40 quite yet, or I think it's happening right now. But I mean, this is all before. And it's fascinating, by the way, the collection of people that show up before things get going, because Thursday's the day, but everyone's been in town since Monday.
Right.
So this is this buildup. The meetings are happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then for the public, Thursday's the day where we see people running, lifting, photos taken, shirts off, etc. So there is a buildup towards the action. And that's why you've got everybody assembled. And this one's so good because this isn't just a happenstance, random Manhattan Beach Starbucks with Rappaport and Schultz. They just happen to be there. No. The whole football world is also there to witness it. That's what's so juicy and beautiful about this one.
Yeah. If you're going to get into a fight, you probably shouldn't do it in front of 1,000 reporters, all with Twitter accounts and fast fingers.
And again, because maybe in another, in a Starbucks somewhere else, maybe they're just two dudes. But this week in Indy, they are, that's Ian Rappaport, that's Jordan Schultz. They might as well have name tags on.
Totally. They're easily identified.
Yes.
Certainly Rappaport. Schultz would be a little bit harder to pick out in the crowd.
But this week, he's known around that circle.
So because I'm a sick puppy, the first thing I thought of, all right, what if we had a straight up insiders battle royale? Who is going to walk away the victor? Now, in order to make it fair, Sammy, we got to divvy this up into two brackets.
Okay.
We have a writer broadcaster division.
Okay.
And then we have a former NFL player division. And there's only one guy I'm going to allow to cross party lines here. And I'll explain why in a second. If we're doing just the writers broadcaster division, like who would be the two survivors? All of them in the ring. Who are the two survivors? There is one name that immediately came to mind.
Well, if you want to say yours first, I know who Vegas would have money on.
Jay Glazer.
Oh, that's great. And he does almost cross over. I like it. I would say then in the finals, I think Glazer versus Stephen A would be absolutely amazing.
Stephen A is an NFL insider.
So you're going you're going true NFL insider.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're going NFL insider, I mean, how do you take Glazer down? I mean, who could even sniff at that? I mean, I would say, obviously, when it comes to news, if you're talking actually a real true fight, duke it out. Glazer's owns the gyms, has the UFC on his back. I mean, there are so many friends. Jay's got so many friends to bring to this fight as well. It's Glazer in a runaway. And if you're giving me who's the contender to Glazer in this?
Well, if it's not him, all of his MMA stuff is a bumper sticker. It's a lie because he's literally fighting guys who type 100 words a minute. So
Jay, I mean, you look at Jay every Sunday, and I know Jay. I see Jay at training camps and whatnot, and I know Jay for years in our radio time together, and he's every time I see him, he's usually working out or coming from a workout. So Jay is clearly the most fit person for this battle, and I really want to know who would. I mean, it's funny because Rappaport's not even in this conversation. No. Right? Nobody's got money on Rappaport, unfortunately.
Sorry, Jordan. Jordan Schultz, there's no way at your private school you ever got into a fight.
No, I really don't think so. And anyone else who's really an insider in this, I mean, maybe would I take, do we consider, I mean, is Jeff Chadia, is he in this? I might.
Chadia? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I might go there. I think he could be really scrappy in something like this. I really do. I would put something on Jeff. I think. What do
you give me for Kyle Brandt?
If we're going to go,
not really an insider.
But if you're going to give me Kyle as an insider, I'm going to say nobody will outlast you. I could see Kyle getting beat up and coming back. Kyle will be someone that would go to the corner numerous times and come out of the corner shot. He's back for another round. I could see Kyle never giving up, right? He'd have an eye hanging out of a socket and still be like, I'm good. So I could see Kyle lasting.
Cut me. So the one guy that I will let cross party lines, because like I said, no former football players are allowed in this because they would clearly win. I would also make the argument that no punter is a real football player. Okay. Therefore, if Pat McAfee were in the writers division, I could see how it would be Glazer and McAfee,
which I'd love to see regardless,
standing in the ring.
So I'd love to see that regardless. So whether or not it's allowed, I say let's let it be allowed. And I'll say also this though, when it comes to insider, who gets more news during the season than McAfee simply based on the Rogers conversation?
Right.
The Rogers Weekly is must listen, must watch from a news perspective. So even though he's not out there tweeting deals, he's got information coming from his community regardless every week because of Rogers. Now, granted, that may change. Rogers may be less relevant in the coming seasons, but to this point, Rogers has made news, 16 of 18 weeks on that show. So I'm going to give it to you. I love that matchup, and I don't even know really if there's. It's tough.
I got two wild cards. I got.
Do you really?
Two other wild cards who might meet McAfee and Glazer in the final four of the Insider Battle Royale.
Okay, give it to me.
Fox broadcaster Adam Amin.
Wow,
Have
and very
good. Seen that broken nose on his face? That broken nose alone means he's been in it once or twice. He's a Chicago boy. I'm going to give him Chicago tough. Adam Amin, I'm going to go ahead and put forward as a maybe. And I'm also going to tell you right now, I don't think you'd really want to go round and round with Maria Taylor. That woman's an Amazon. She towers over every single person she stands next to on that NBC set. Like, if you're telling me right now who you're taking, Maria Taylor or Mike Tirico, I think she mops the floor with Mike Tirico.
Two people I really respect that I've worked with, who I've seen out and about, and plenty of energy, and really could really be scrappy in this. Josina Anderson is unbelievable at getting on a field, getting where she needs to be, talking to who she needs to talk to. So that's a lot of sort of elbows to get where you have to be on the field. So Josina knows how to get it done and get the prize. So she knows how to box out and get the prize. So Josina, I'm saying for sure, she's got plenty of spunk. I could absolutely see her getting there. And even though you may think, and there might have to be an age division here, but Pete Prisco, there is nobody more ornery and ready to fight and spat it out than Pete, and he is awesome. And Pete potentially somewhere has mob ties. I mean, Pete is really, you do not want to be in a dark alley alone with Prisco. I'm telling you, right? And he is, and by the way, I don't think anyone knows where more bodies are buried than Prisco. So I'm going Prisco on this. And you know what? I got to give credit to a guy who comes from where we both do with our careers. I mean, and whether he was an insider or not, but he was certainly a writer. But Skip Bayless would also have something to contend with, and he would want to prove something. You know, Skip would really want to prove that he's the alpha. So I could really see Skip in a battle saying, it's my word here, and I will not let it go down this way.
See, this is where we need Stephen A. back involved then, just to see what happens when the two of them go blow to blow. Now, if we did the former football player only division covering the NFL,
it's a landslide for me.
It's Shannon Sharp's world, and we're all just living in it, right?
It is. And if anything, I'd love to see the tight end versus tight end. I'd say Gronk versus Shannon. I would just love to see.
Ooh. Okay, so I like that you went with that. I wasn't even thinking Gronk. I also wrote down Greg Olsen.
Okay.
Greg Olsen probably.
Yeah, so we're just sticking with the tight ends here. I love it.
Michael Strahan. I mean, he's been living that New York bougie caviar life just long enough to where I'm going to doubt him a little.
Sure.
And I think we really have to stretch the definition of media member for him to be in the ring. But if Cam Newton got in there,
he's in. If you and I are sitting here on YouTube telling people to watch and hang out with us, Cam Newton, 100%. Cam Newton's got a podcast that showed up on Hard Knocks, right? Him interviewing Burrow on Hard Knocks, I think, stamps it for me.
Okay.
So there you go.
So Cam Newton, when he takes that,
I got one more who you're not going to want to mess with.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell anyone right now, if you've never been in the same room with Cam Newton, you have no idea how big of a human he really is.
This is me and you last year in Las Vegas, right? Yeah. Me and you last year in Las Vegas in Media Row, which used to be Radio Row. Cam Newton showed up and the room stopped. It was you could hear a pin drop. Everyone looked around. Wow, who is that?
He's the size of a doorway. He's the size of a door frame. He is fucking huge. I mean, he is that cannot be a quarterback level huge. He really is. By the way, Smiley Dan in here saying, who knew this was the segment we needed today? Thank you, Damon.
Exactly.
We knew you needed it.
And by the way, you know what we should do, Damon? We really should, because it's just in time. We should create a bracket. This happens every year where we you've seen the bracket of media members and whatnot, but if we do it under the guise of Starbucks altercation, I think this would be more fun for people to think about it this way. We should really release this. I mean, it's going to take a while for me and you to come up with 64 in both categories, but maybe those are just two different regions. Maybe it's just coming out, right?
We'll cap it at 32. Okay. We'll start around the 32.
I think we could do this. But one guy you haven't mentioned who I have to, because he has got an edge. He is lovable in a room if you're hanging out with him, but I could see him also turning on you. LeVar Arrington.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Get LeVar Arrington is absolute. I mean, just go back and think about LeVar at Penn State. Think about what LeVar did with the Redskins and with the Giants. LeVar Arrington, I want no part of.
Chad Ochocinco is trying to fight James Harrison whenever he sits down to do a podcast. Like, he seems like I don't know if Chad Ochocinco has got the actual physicality to stand there, but he seems like he's got a screw loose.
Chippy.
And screw loose, the guy with the loosest screw is probably more dangerous than the guy who throws the hardest punch in any fight.
Yes. And speaking of this, there's two other guys we haven't spoken about who I was lucky enough to spend time with at Fox. James Harrison. So if he is member of the media, get out of the way. who's scarier than James Harrison. I mean, AKA Debo, and definitely part of the media, Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis is just, right. I mean,
he's literally in the corner macing himself with deer antler spray, just getting angrier and angrier.
I want no part of that, right? I want no part of that. So Ray that's Lewis. Good. And I feel like Baldinger would also be scrappy. I feel like Baldinger, his hand, if you see Baldinger's hand, his fingers twisted all the other way, like Baldinger would absolutely get in there and throw some.
Yeah, no, Baldinger's pinky is crookeder than Lombard Street in San Francisco. There's no doubt. The battle royale that we all need, let it happen in that Starbucks. Sammy, let's make the bracket. Let's put it out there for the people. We need to do this.
Just in time. I mean, it's bracket time. Let's go, right? Selection Sunday. We're doing it. We're doing Selection Wednesday in a Starbucks. Let's go.
But I really mean it. Tom Brady should be sending both Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz a muffin basket, because nobody is talking about what started the altercation in the first place, these two guys with their conflicting reports. And let me just ask you, what do you think Tom Brady was doing at that ski slope? Just happened to be bumping into Matthew Stafford. Here's the thing. Brady is going to get away with everything that he can get away with. We know that. And he is going to constantly be sending that big toe out in front of him, looking for that line. Where can I step on? Who's going to stop me from stepping over the line? This is Tom Brady. This is why he's a killer. And I wouldn't take the other side at all to see Stafford in Vegas.
I'm going to show up at your poker game and take the other side. Stafford and Brady run in similar circles, I would say, right? I mean, just think about this, right? Like, there's a yacht club that you and I aren't allowed into that Stafford and Brady are. And Brady's another level above Stafford, but Stafford is current tens of $1 million a year, looking for $50 million, $100 million contract right now. Stafford, he can run in circles with Tom Brady, right? And Brady's no longer with Giselle, so that's not that's not a duel. And if you argue, and his wife's also making some nice money on her podcast as well. So I feel like Stafford and Brady could be at a farmer's market to go, oh, hey, I mean, that could happen. Like, those neighborhoods are close enough that could happen. If you tell me ski slope, I could believe it. And again, remember, Stafford to the Rams was a happenstance run-in in Cabo, I believe it was. That's where the Goff Stafford thing, right?
Happened to be.
So I will say it could be. Do I really think that? No, I think Brady's riding the line. I also think it's great for Brady that this is not in season, because there was a lot around Brady being able to broadcast games for Fox. And remember what happens. He's not allowed to go to practices during the week and watch the way that in other words, his broadcast partners can go to certain meetings that he cannot at Fox because of his affiliation with ownership ties to the Raiders. So Brady's already riding that line, just being allowed to call the Super Bowl, call the NFC Championship, any game that he does on Sunday for Fox. This has already been a conversation that he's a little too close to it, perhaps, and getting an edge because he gets to see, as part of a broadcast team, things that other owners would not. So that's already interesting. So good for him. This isn't during the season. This has nothing to do with the broadcast coming up. I also just want to say, as much as I'd love to just rip this apart, I kind of love the idea of Stafford in Vegas. I also kind of love that. So I want to at least speak to that, but I still want you to I still want you to go down the conspiracy road here, because yeah, it's a little too cute to think that these guys are just having a happenstance conversation.
Everyone here is such a savage competitor. I don't believe in any coincidence. The coincidence at the cutthroat level of competition that the NFL is happening in, I don't believe in it. And now maybe it happened, and call me a doubting Thomas. It's fine. I'm not going to sign up for it. I don't believe it. Even if you can prove it's coincidence, I'm going to say, well, Brady picked this mountain because he heard that he might bump into Stafford, or there might be. Like, there's always
this Black Diamond run. This is the Black Diamond run I'm going on today. I want to echo one thing Andrew says, Siciliano. Legal tampering, by the way, it's not tampering. Legal tampering. You are allowed to speak. There is a time when you are allowed to speak. Now, I know this is in the gray area, but you're allowed. You're allowed to have conversations. But it's interesting.
Yeah, so here's the thing. And either way, I really don't care. I don't care how the business of the NFL gets done. Just get it on the field and give me a good game. And, I was talking with JT the Brick last night. We just happened to, he gave me a call and we were talking, and I'm like, look, man, you know me, I'm quick to make fun of the Raiders for lots of reasons.
Sure.
But Pete Carroll plus Chip Kelly plus Matthew Stafford equals okay, you got an offense that needs to be taken seriously.
And can we talk about Max Crosby and Brock Bowers? All of a sudden, this is really, I know actually Cowherd has been going on this for a couple of days now, looking at the pieces of what you have there. And the offensive line is the one that we need to know is short up. But Raiders, it's funny what happens when you plug in quarterback, how all of a sudden, oh, wait, we have pieces. Without a quarterback, it's like, maybe we're trading Crosby and we have nothing. But all of a sudden you plug a legitimate quarterback in, and now, oh, I can see what's happening. And just a week ago, you and I were talking about Vegas. I had mentioned the Chip Kelly thing and the Pete Carroll thing because I was thinking maybe Kirk Cousins would be a guy that could go there and sort of resurrect because Chip Kelly could do that. Stafford's the belle of this ball. He's the belle of the ball, even if you include Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. He's the belle of this ball.
I mean, I would much rather have Stafford in what's left than take a flyer on a rookie who's a huge question mark. You just have no idea. And the Raiders need to do something like now. You know, they're not building a team for, we'll see you 4 years from now. That's what, you don't hire Pete Carroll 4 years from now. You're trying to get right now. It'll be interesting to see if it happens. And then the counter move could be, oh, Aaron Rodgers has a landing spot in Los Angeles. And if you're a 49er fan, you got to almost be praying for that because Aaron Rodgers does a lot of things in the NFL, but beating the 49ers ain't one of them.
Including last season where he opens in New York. Opens for the Jets against the Niners on Monday Night Football. And that game was adorable for about a quarter. And then it was just over. Right. I mean, it was over. And Aaron Rodgers, NFC West, this is something that I'm sorry, but the Niners have to love the idea of Rodgers because I'm sorry, based on what we've seen, I know you can go really inside the numbers and dissect and say that Rodgers actually had a pretty nice stretch of maybe 10 games last season, but that can we just admit that is a downgrade? And I'm sorry, I'd love to be proven wrong here, but Stafford to Rodgers is a downgrade.
I would think so too. At this point, absolutely, it's a downgrade. By the way, upgrade your lunch options today. My man Ike has got a sandwich for you. Do you see that smooth transition, Sammy?
I saw it. And also, he's got a location in Studio City, I realize now. So I'm going to have to grab one later as well today. So Southern California also represented.
Boom. Go get yourself a Damon Bruce, baby. Beautiful. Look at me. You want some rings with your championship? There you go. You get 3 rings right there.
That is gorgeous.
Go ahead and get yourself a Damon Bruce at Ike. Sign up for that Love Rewards program. You'll be very happy that you did. Our good friends at the Dubliner West Portal. It's the best Guinness in all San Francisco. Dubliner West Portal. Muni drops you off, picks you up. You don't have to worry about parking, driving, anything like that. Love the guys at the Dubliner. Thanks to them so very, very much for supporting what we're doing over here. Again, like and subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus and Thinking Out Loud with Sam Betesh and Andrew Siciliano. Subscribe, like, all those good things. It is wonderful having you here today. We got some people saying, Talk Track says, are Larry and David feuding? No, not at all. But what we're going to be doing is wake up on Mondays and Fridays only. During the off season, we're not going to be doing a Wednesday wake up. So Larry and I will be back at it at 9 a.m. tomorrow, co-streaming on both of our channels. No, Larry and I are never feuding. Tim Kawakami, by the way, is going to be joining me at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I think he does a better job of all-encompassing Bay Area sports than anybody.
And what a run he's had. Tim, how many years? I mean, we're going on, this is 2 decades, no, 3 decades now, Kawakami, right? I mean, Tim has been doing this in the Bay Area and a leading voice in the Bay Area.
Absolutely.
For 3 decades now, minimum.
Kawakami coming up tomorrow. Looking forward to it. But no, Larry and I, you don't have to worry about it. Parents aren't arguing. Don't worry, kids. Don't worry. We're going to stay together. By the way, SG Sports Talk channel, now a member for 5 months. Thank you very much. Hi, Damon and Sammy doing solo play-by-play for the Warriors Magic game tonight. You should definitely tune in.
That's great.
Hey, keep it up, man. Keep it up. That. Thank you very, very much. I've got a PTA meeting tonight. I'm going to be missing a significant chunk of the Warriors game live in real time. I'm going to have to tape it. But we got to go to a PTA meeting tonight. There's a book fair as well.
That's exciting.
Jack's already signing up for
Let's go. Pete the Cat. Let's go.
I'm excited. Dude, he loves Pete the Cat.
Cool. Come on.
He signs up for a level of books that you're like, all right, what are you signing up for? And it's like, it's all Pokemon. And you're like, we can do better than this.
We're going to,
we need to do better.
That's why you need to show up at the meeting, Damon.
That's why we got to be there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. There are rules to this, Sam, as we know. And that brings us to our next topic today.
Yes.
Because right now, the Green Bay Packers have put forth to the NFL a suggestion that they ban the brotherly shove, the tush push in Philadelphia. As this live streams resident Eagles fan, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this here, Sam. Let me just say that I hate when you need to change a rule to affect an on-field strategy. If you want to ban the tush push, play better on first, second, and third down and quit letting the Eagles have fourth and short. Okay, there is 3 downs in which your defense can actually ban the tush push from being a good play. I don't like it when strategy is outlawed, when anyone could do this, but not everybody does it. So that means it's clearly a skill. It is not just something anyone could do. I don't like any rule changes. The NFL changes too many rules. Anyways, as an Eagles fan, you got to be laughing at this, Sammy.
I actually want to take a sip of coffee here because this is so interesting. And I love what you've said already. Okay, let's look at this from the Packers' perspective, first of all. Now, you lost twice to the Eagles last season, so I understand that hurts. And your season ended against the Eagles. And this all came from, this was actually a Q&A with Murphy, with their CEO, Murphy, who basically said, this is not a football play. Can we look at that statement, first of all?
Why?
I'm sorry. Football's not a tough sport about lining up, hat on hat, strength on strength, weight room. These are not terms that are synonymous with football. How about goal line push? How about even quarterback sneak, which is this is a version of that. What is not football about this play where you have the offensive line versus the defensive line in a tug of war saying, who can get more inches on your side to make this a first down for your team or a first down for our team? This is as football as anything else that we see.
Right.
And
it's a definition of a football play.
Nobody looking at this play thinks this looks out of place. It does not. It looks like strength. And again, what is the number one term you see? A man moving another man. That's and we don't even have to say that term anymore. Okay, man versus man, but a person moving another person is essentially what football comes down to. Can I win on that line where we are creating protection for our quarterback, or are we allowing the other team to get to our quarterback? And this is simply that strength on strength. So I hate that we know that it came from the Packers, because to me, it's so easy to dismiss now because it looks like someone who is saying it's sort of, we're upset because we lost.
It looks sour grapes.
We're upset because we lost. And if this really were numerous teams saying we don't want it, okay, then maybe if there really was a petition signed, maybe, and we'll see how the vote goes on this, because we will find out what the vote is, maybe right there in that Starbucks at the combine. But this will not get. Look, it's also not injuring players. Nobody is getting hurt, and in fact, look how many other teams tried to duplicate this, Damon. Teams are trying to. Buffalo does a pretty good job with it. They don't operate at the clip the Eagles do, but Josh Allen is running this play numerous times, including in an AFC Championship game where he came up a little short, although I guess we can argue whether we're short or not. But this strategy applies to any team. And by the way, the Giants hurt themselves trying to do it, which is just laughable. Justin Herbert basically told his coaching staff, I don't want to try that anymore because I hated it. He tried it. It failed. And he said, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Hurts has an advantage. This is the advantage of having a quarterback who squats 600 pounds, who also sits next to now a running back who squats for 600 pounds. Okay, yes, this is that play that works for them. I love what you said about just don't show up with fourth and short. Keep your defense out of fourth and short, third and short, and then there is no tush push.
Right.
But I'm sorry, too many teams are trying to figure out how to run this themselves. that this cannot be. And it's not illegal. Now, what Murphy did say, which I'd like to dissect, maybe there was a rule at some point in the NFL about pushing players. And apparently the league came off of that rule because it was too difficult for the officials to determine whether or not someone was being pushed. So so they had to sort of get away from that. So now there are specific rules about where you have to line up for this play. Well, guess what? The Eagles have done it. And ask Frankie Louvu if he understands how to stop it at this point, since he just jumped up with a lot.
This isn't USC trying to push
Matt Leinart.
You're trying to push Matt Leinart into Notre Dame's end zone.
Right.
This is a little bit different than that. And again, to me, if you want to stop it, you have 3 downs to prevent this play from being run. People are asking, Damon, you and Larry fighting. This is actually one thing that Larry and I have fought over.
This is good.
The play should be banned.
Really?
He's like, the sport of football is it's a television game and it's not entertaining. It's a bad play. Like, what happens if a team could tush push? It's all the way down the field.
But you can't. But you can't. You can't.
I said, if that could happen, Kyle Shanahan should figure it the fuck out and go win a Super Bowl with it. If it's that easy, that's what should happen.
That's hilarious. And that's very true, Damon. And the teams that can run this would if they could. And there is schematics behind this play. Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for the Eagles, he has come up with a way that their line collapses that space for Hurts. And if you notice, it's not always exactly in the same place, although it does go behind Dickerson much of the time to the left, but it's not always that. And it opens up great plays. They didn't connect on it this year, but there was an amazing fake where they ran a deep post to A.J. Brown, and it just happened to be that they didn't connect on the pass. But
didn't read the right book that day.
Exactly, that's all right. Outer excellence, not inner excellence on that route, but that's okay. It should remain. I love that you and Larry are on opposite ends of it, but you're right. And by the way, who would use this more than Kyle Shanahan? If Shanahan had figured, if he knew this, he would have this in his back pocket. Nobody loves an offensive line scheme more than Kyle Shanahan. So I'm sorry. Deep down, the league respects this. They simply do. And Murphy said, yeah, Bart Starr had been using the quarterback sneak. It works just fine for him. Really? It doesn't. By the way, the quarterback sneak doesn't work for anybody. And that's why the Eagles have an advantage here. And I'm sorry. It feels like spilled milk.
If I were in charge of all, Damon, you're sports czar, the very first thing I would do would be declaring a moratorium on any rule changes or conference realignment or change. Like, sports is evolving and changing so much. We don't need a new division, a new conference, and a new rule book every freaking year. And the NFL, again, I think it's important to be quick to address problems when you see them. But I also think that the NFL is so much wrapped up in a classic case of they come up with an answer and then they start looking for a problem. What is going on right now with the NFL wanting to tinker with overtime rules again?
I love this.
As I have always seen it, if you want to win a game, do it in regulation. Going into overtime should come with an inherent risk to it. You've allowed the game to get to this point, which means you're not nearly on as good footing as you used to be. I always thought that the sudden death first field goal wins was fair and square. I had no problem with it. I never said that this is unfair. Again, make a play defensively to prevent what everyone says is an easy to kick field goal now that field goals are pretty much automatic from 55 and in. Okay. All right, but so you want then the opportunity to answer that first field goal? Okay. I'm not going to argue against more football in overtime. So if you go, okay, I can do that. I can do that. Now, what do they want to do, Sam? What is the latest that they're proposing?
It's so funny. This rule comes down to, do we just want to award the Bills the 2021 divisional playoff win? Will that help shut everybody up about this? It's all back in time. Can we just go back in time and don't even give Josh
win 2 Super Bowls ago? Did the Niners win in Kansas City?
But it comes down to that 2021 divisional playoff game where Josh. By the way, please do yourself a favor, Damon, you included. Watch the 2021 divisional game after the 2-minute warning. It is the greatest scoring feat of all time what happens after the 2-minute warning in that game to get it into overtime, and then what happens in overtime, the amount of scoring back and forth, and what you think are walk-off game-winning plays that are then upped by a play that ties the game or sends the game into overtime, you wouldn't believe. I mean, Gabe Davis is the hero, and then all of a sudden what Mahomes can do with 13 seconds left to send it to overtime with a long Butker field. The whole thing is remarkable. Go back and watch it. But that's why this rule was changed. And ironic, this rule was not changed the season before when, guess what? Mahomes was beat by Brady. Same thing. Brady beat Mahomes in an AFC championship game on a walk-off touchdown to Gronkowski where everyone thought Mahomes had outplayed Brady that day. The rule wasn't changed for that. For all the conspiracies about the Chiefs, by the way, the rule was not changed then for Mahomes. It was changed later when people were sad for Josh Allen because he didn't get a chance to get the ball again in that overtime. So, okay, do we just want to make, just put the Bills in that AFC championship game, which, by the way, that wouldn't have even put them in the Super Bowl. That would have only gotten them against the Bengals in that AFC championship game. So do what you want with that. Let me make this so simple. And Damon, you and I, we love hockey. Sudden death is a great term. I can't stand, soccer to me should always be golden goal. I just think sudden death, that overtime, you said it, the word is risk. Overtime should be risky to the audience and to the participants. It is risky. This could end overtime. We're spending more time than we anticipated. That means it can end soon. That means it can end in a flash. But here's what it comes down to. You want to talk about what's fair and unfair? You want to talk about what is not really the sport? Flipping a fucking coin. Get rid of the coin flip. That's what it's about. All you have to do is designate going into any game that either the home team, the away team, the team that won the coin flip at the beginning of the game that's deferring, and that means they will get the ball first in overtime. If you play an entire fourth quarter knowing that you are going to receive the ball first or are not going to receive the ball first in overtime, it changes your entire strategy. You can play out the fourth quarter knowing, just like when you play the end of a first half knowing that you are receiving the kickoff or not, the same should apply for overtime. Now you can defend a certain way or be aggressive on offense with 30 seconds left because you know you are or are not receiving the ball first in overtime. Just do away with the idea that all of a sudden these grown men who have battled it out are now going to flip a coin and say tails and heads. Why are we doing that? What place does that stand on a football field?
The team that gained the most total yards receives the ball.
Here, just
award it to some element of football that had been played, not just random flipped of a coin.
Sam, home field advantage. By the way, in baseball, we know who's going to be. We know which team gets the opportunity to bat last, right? It doesn't change when we get to extra innings. Oh, now we can win on a walk off and you can't. No. We knew that at the beginning of the game that the home team doesn't need to then get 3 outs to win the game. We know that there can be a walk off because that is what home field advantage is. So give that as a home field advantage. If you're the home team, you get the ball first in overtime. Period. And then the road team knows we got the ball late. We better score here.
Right. It incentivizes you to play more aggressively at the end of the game instead of just, we're
going to go to overtime. We're safe. We're safe. We got in overtime. Well, guess what? You're not safe because it comes down to a 50% proposition of a coin. And there's no, let's be clear. Is there a strategy behind picking heads or tails? Can we just answer that question?
Tails never fails unless it's heads.
Exactly. So why are we letting it come down to that? Just stop making it more complicated. Just the coin flip is what makes it ridiculous because it's not based in football.
You are a freaking genius. Again, your answer is so simple that only a genius could think of it. I mean, seriously, that is the best answer to a football problem I've heard in a really long time, Sam. I'm going to golf clap you on that one. And again, this is why everyone needs to be subscribing to Thinking Out Loud. This is the kind of thinkery that you get over there with Sammy and Andrew Siciliano. By the way, David Isaac has come in with $5 for the ganja jar, saying banning the Tush Push is ridiculous. If everyone could, they would.
And one more thing on that. Guess what? Remember when everyone hated the Chiefs and wanted someone to beat the Chiefs? okay, the Eagles beat the Chiefs. Now we're immediately trying to take away one of their advantages. I don't know. What do people want? You wanted the Chiefs to lose? They lost to the Eagles, and now we want to make the Eagles worse. Really? That's the Eagles' prize for winning the Super Bowl. We want to make you worse immediately, and that's just how. Because you know what sports is predicated on, Damon? It's predicated on losing. We're actually a community of people who want to support losing, because that's what really happens. More often than not, what does your team do at the end of a season? They lose. The percentages are stacked against you. Your team makes it to a Super Bowl and loses. It was a losing season, right? It's even a more tragic loss. So
only one team walks off a winner at the end of every season.
So everyone is coping with loss. And that's why this comes up. Nobody can stand the winner. And that's just what it is. You hate the Chiefs, and guess what? Now they lost. Let's hate the Eagles. There you go.
Speaking of hating the winner, I guess that brings us to Kevin Durant.
Oh, please.
I
please give me this.
We haven't talked to anything but football here on the show, but when we were saying we want to talk about some things here. So it's funny. I was thinking about Kevin Durant this week too, because I would wager that there are very few players with fewer career accolades whose numbers have been retired than what Andre Iguodala has had in his career. Andre Iguodala was a much better Golden State Warrior than he was an NBA player, if that makes any sense.
It does, and I could nod my head there. As a Sixers fan, that would be the other argument, because he was probably, from a numbers standpoint, he was probably best before he ever hit Golden State. Just from a numbers game in and game in standpoint, that's where he was sort of becoming a, quote, star standalone, was in Philly, and it never happened.
He was never the lead dog on any team that ever went anywhere.
He's the other AI, even in Philadelphia.
He's a one-time All-Star in his career. He is 11-5-4 throughout his career averages. He was a on-court basketball IQ genius. To just measure him by his offensive numbers is to do him wrong. He had the fastest fucking hands I've ever seen, Sammy. You would not want to play the slap game.
The hand slap.
Andre, you do not want to play that game with Andre Iguodala. Those hands are fast. During his jersey retirement ceremony, you really found out how much he meant to Steph and Draymond and Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr. And if the Warriors are saying this guy is worthy of getting his number retired, okay, it's your locker room. You know more about what he means from a Svengali motivational standpoint than I ever could, because I'm not a Golden State Warrior. I just watched the game. You're telling me his real value was the conversations that were had where we couldn't see it? Okay, it obviously meant a lot to you guys. It's your franchise. You do what you want. Kevin Durant's number should now not be retired by the Golden State Warriors, because he was offered a path home and he basically said, I ain't interested. That, to me, Durant's still part of the statue one day, but that number should not be retired. When you went to give him a hug, he walked away from you right on the dance floor once again.
I'm so upset about this. And by the way, I'll be there. I'll meet you for the Leandro Barbosa retirement ceremony. I'll be there for that with you. So that'll be an exciting time.
We're going to be championship. We're going to be championship.
I am so upset that Durant didn't give us another opportunity to see Steph and Durant dominating this league. I said it to you last week when we spoke. Now, the 72-win team did it without Durant, and that was record-setting. But the Durant team had a chance to be perfect in the postseason and only lost one game to LeBron. But that was the greatest team I ever saw. That was the greatest postseason run I ever saw. That was the most confident I ever saw any team playing any opponent anywhere, no matter what. That team ran the league. And if you want to talk about banning something, that's when the league should have said, all right, we need to do something about the fact that this team's just so fucking good. They were so much better than everybody else everywhere they went. And if they wanted to win that night, they won. And give them credit for something else. They got on the fucking court together. Do you remember the Nets team that was the greatest team we ever saw? That was Harden and Kyrie and Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons. And I swear to God, those four guys never even showed up for a photo together. Those guys were never anywhere together. That team was, I understand there was a big toe away from beating Milwaukee and going to, that wasn't even going to send them to the finals. I believe that was going to send them to the conference championship.
Yeah.
That Warriors team, as much as in the end we say it unraveled and they didn't get along, and Draymond and KD, and by the way, the KD comments this week, remember, for as much as those two guys don't get along, this was on Draymond's podcast that Durant explained why he didn't go back. But these guys put egos aside for the most part, to be the most dominant team for me and you, Damon, this is the most dominant team we ever saw. We saw the Lakers, we saw Jordan and the Bulls, but I'm sorry, when you're talking about a roster, this was the most dominant team that everyone else cowered next to them. Durant, Steph, Clay, Draymond. That was the greatest collection in our lifetime of a championship run. That was it. And the opportunity for Steph, Draymond, and KD to be back together, this league deserves, especially now that LeBron started it with, if you want to talk about, with the triplets and what he did in Miami, and that's fine. Player movement is what this league is about. I love Jimmy on the Warriors. In fact, my cousin, who is trying to get out of his Sixers love, he actually said, I'm now, he became an orphan, an NBA orphan. And I told him, if you're not going to go with the Sixers anymore, you better jump on the Warriors. I said, that's the team. That's a team worth rooting for. Go for it.
Well, look, you're going to get interesting. I mean, you're not, this is not a long-term buy and hold with the Warriors. The Warriors got about 3 seasons left until it comes crashing down. But let's see where this one goes. I mean,
and again, did you hear Durant's explanation for why he didn't want to join the Warriors again? Was somehow that the math didn't work out because when he goes to a new team, his contract is so large that it takes away from an opportunity to do other things. What are you talking about? We're not getting rid of Steph. As long as Steph stays and Durant comes over, are we really worried about that much else? We can figure out the minutia beyond that. That's what matters. And those two guys coming together, I mean, is it just that he won already and therefore that's not interesting to him anymore?
What I think here is, so the fact that Kevin Durant is a Phoenix Sun right now, there is no team that embodies their style. Like Durant and the Suns are perfect for each other because no matter how much of a walking bucket they seem to be with Durant and Booker and Beal, there's still no there. There's no substance there. There's no leadership there. And that's who Kevin Durant is too. Kevin Durant is a bucket. He's a terrible leader. Kevin Durant is obsessed with basketball. He is not obsessed with winning. I mean, I really believe Kevin Durant would rather go out and get his 40 a night and not win than get 22 and win and not be. I mean, there is something about him that is leadership, excellence pursuing soft that I think could be proven in the court of law. Like you walked away from Steph Curry to join the Brooklyn Nets. Right there, you have lost your basketball credibility.
And remember, it was the dysfunction of Westbrook that he was leaving. So he understood what it's like to be in a dysfunctional place. The Westbrook thing had clearly run its end. He ends up with Steph Curry in a perfectly supported situation and then seeks out Kyrie Irving. What is going on? And now, surrounded by talent, again, with a Phoenix team that nobody sees right now as a favorite for anything. Now, they could prove us wrong. That's just fine. And he would be right in the end if somehow the Suns are the champions this season. But nobody thinks that is happening. And if he were on the Warriors, that immediately changes. That if Kevin Durant and not Butler is on the Warriors. I understand Butler's going to make the Warriors apps he already has made them a true contender. But Durant, Steph, and Draymond together again against Luka and LeBron. Give me that in the Western Conference Finals, please. I hope the bracket would work out that way. That's all the league needs. That's all this league needs. I am so disappointed we don't get to see it again because Durant on the Warriors was the greatest collection of talent, and I wasn't mad about it at all because I wanted to see Durant win. And guess what? The only time in our lives, Damon, that we've compared Durant to LeBron and said who is really the greatest right now active player was at that period of his life.
Yep. Now, look, Durant had an opportunity to rule the league with an iron fist, but it was the Twitter fingers of anonymous 14-year-old kids that convinced him, I can't stay any longer. I mean, Draymond helped push a little out the door for sure. There's more than just the public perception, but I really do think that public perception of him taking the easy way out with the Warriors ended up crushing him more than anything else.
And let's also look at this. Did he ride the coattails of the Warriors? I understand they won 72 games before he got there, but look at the makeup, the chemistry of that team and what they did. Durant was an alpha. He was the alpha on that team. Durant was Durant's numbers with the war. It's not as if he came there and all of a sudden, Steph did everything and Durant was just lucky to be along for the ride. No. He was the most dominant player on that team. Don't forget it. Durant was the most dominant player on those Warriors teams, period.
Take that, Maurice Spates. Sam Betesh, I hope you are following Sammy. Go to Thinking Out Loud. Sammy does stuff with Andrew Siciliano over there. Siciliano is all over NFL Combine this week, all over player movement. So it's a great follow. We always end shows here on the Plus with a little Today in History. Sammy, you ready to go down the?
I love this. Is my favorite. This is my favorite part of the week. So let's please go there.
All right. Well, sadly, we normally start with birthdays and anniversaries of passing away. Today in history, today, February 27th, 2005, we've lost Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman passed away. Now, what is weird about this is not only so Gene Hackman is in his 90s. When you're in your 90s, you're ready to die any day. There's nothing odd about a person in his 90s dying. What's odd about this is Gene Hackman's wife, who is in her 60s, also passed away, and a dog of theirs was also found dead in a home. They originally said no foul play, but unless you can prove that there was carbon monoxide or something like that, there's something very odd about the way the Hackmans have passed away. And this is a story that is going to be brewing throughout the day. And all I can tell you is rest in peace, Coach Norman Dale, and go Hoosiers. Gene Hackman.
There will always be Hoosiers. And considering how weird this story is right now, should we look at the Firm would be the movie that I'm looking at now with Gene Hackman, because this story looks like a scene out of the Firm. Am I right?
Yeah.
This is, I hope that nothing foul play happened here, but the hell, what is going on there? I'm sorry, but that is scary. That is really scary.
Yeah. My favorite Gene Hackmans, obviously Coach Norman Dale.
For sure.
I love him as Lex Luthor. He is the only guy that could ever play Lex Luthor in my mind. Don't let those Superman movies getting bad at the end fool you. He was the best Lex Luthor ever. And the role that he plays, was it Lil Bill in Unforgiven?
Oh,
I know I haven't even said the French Connection. I haven't even brought up Popeye Doyle over here. To me, he is at his absolutely most Gene Hackman-y possible, where he goes in between that reassuring to incredibly intimidating to incredibly kind to incredibly scary to incredibly understanding to incredibly dastardly. Like he straddles that role so perfectly. Gene Hackman and Unforgiven.
Unforgiven is a beautiful one. Also, we don't want to. Mississippi Burning is another legendary one. Okay, Crimson Tide. Crimson Tide, of course, right? Let's not. By the way, I'm a big Young Frankenstein guy. Also, as a horror movie buff, I'll go Young Frankenstein is another great one.
Come in, have some soup.
Come on. Gene Hackman, legend to the end, and this will be now a sad day in history for you and I, and we'll bring it all back to Hoosiers, since that's really we were talking about it last week with Season on the Brink, and yes, Gene Hackman, R.I.P.
The way that movie ends with the little kid shooting in the Hickory gym and they pulling tight on the team picture. I love you guys. Oh, it gets me every time, every freaking time. Oh, I got my eyes could water right now just thinking about it. Okay. All right. So rest in peace, all Hackmans, including the dog. I'm sure Gene Hackman had a great dog.
Yeah.
It's a weird story coming out of New Mexico. And by the way, have you ever noticed only weird stories come out of New Mexico? There's no normal.
And by the way, go back and watch The Firm. There's a number of ransacked rooms in The Firm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Today in 1703, the very first Mardi Gras was celebrated in Mobile, Alabama.
Interesting. And I was going to say, I was going to say Utah. Remember, Utah and New Orleans have these strange ties, and so I was going to say Utah as a random guess. My parents met at LSU. My mom is from New Orleans, so Mardi Gras. Yeah, really. Yeah. I got these are really Eagles championship beads, but beads over time have just kind of been a thing. I used to go to Mardi Gras as a kid, and what a special time and a special place.
So that was 1703, the very first Mardi Gras. today in 1827, it officially hit the streets of
Bourbon.
New Orleans.
Yes.
And so it was Mardi Gras was in Alabama. And then LSU beats Alabama, I guess. And in 1827, New Orleans and Mardi Gras are inseparable. You can't have one without the other. Today in 1900, a German chemist named Felix Hoffmann was issued a patent for acetyl salicylic acid, or as you and I know it, aspirin.
Bravo, by the way.
Happy birthday to Take Two and Call Me in the Morning, right? I mean, that's nice job. German hasn't put a lot of this is going to help you world into the world. We got an aspirin.
That's a great one that everybody watching and listening to us right now appreciates every week. Certainly, aspirin we appreciate every week in some way.
It helps. It certainly helps. Today in 1936, Shirley Temple signed a new contract with 20th Century Fox. She was 7 years old, making $50,000 for a 7-year-old in 1936. Adjusted for inflation, Shirley Temple was pulling down $1.13 million per picture. Has there ever been a more famous or deep-pocketed child actor than Shirley Temple when you look at that inflation change?
Question for you. Shirley Temple to drink now allows her name to live on more. So I would say people these days know Shirley Temple to drink more than they could necessarily reference a Shirley Temple movie top of mind.
Hey,
Will Arnold Palmer live on the same way?
Look at it this way. There you go.
Yes.
That's all you need to know.
It's so true, Damon. You will live forever.
What am I more famous for? Am I recognized as a broadcaster or a sandwich?
Or a delicious sandwich at Ike's.
Either way, I feel good about it. I really do. Sammy, you love hockey more than anyone who I've ever called a roommate, that's for sure.
Yes.
In 1960, the United States Olympic hockey team beat the Soviet Union at Squaw Valley when the Winter Olympics were at Squaw. Can't call it Squaw anymore. I don't know why. I mean, Trump's back in office. Can we go from Palisades back to Squaw, please? Fuck. Anyways. The very next day, they had to beat Czechoslovakia, and they went on to win. Isn't that funny? The two biggest wins over the Russians only got them to the gold medal round. It was Czechoslovakia in 1960, and then, of course, Finland. in 84. So, or no, 1980.
80, like Placid. Again, I want to give a tip of the cap to ESPN production for what they did with the Quaid speech from Miracle. To put that together with the spliced in with the U.S. locker room. That was just so beautiful to take the Herb Brooks or Kurt Russell, I said Quaid, Kurt Russell's speech from that movie that was Herb Brooks. Such a tremendous job. But 1960 people don't remember necessarily. It's 80 that we remember and celebrate so much, but 60, another one as well.
We wrap up today in history with what I think is one of the single most important moments in the history of Bay Area sports. Today, 9 years ago, today, February 27th, 2016, Steph Curry, Oklahoma City, double bang. Steph Curry pulled up from just over half court and hit a shot to end a game in Oklahoma City that literally changed the way I thought of Curry and the Warriors. And in that year, they would go on to win their first title, obviously. That was, I believe, and this is a guy who's won an Olympic gold medal. This is a guy who had the massive, saving you in game 3 in New Orleans, corner 3 in the playoffs and that early going that year. There was obviously his performance in Boston in the close it down game that was incredible when they won their last championship. To me, though, the signature moment of a career that has a million signature moments, the single most signature moment of the Steph Curry athletic story to me is that double bang, because that's where it all really begins. That is the universal big bang that the rest of the universe grow from. The Warriors dynasty was born in the double bang moment.
I would love for everyone here on YouTube, first of all, to like and subscribe at Bruce Plus and at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. But when we are done, please do yourself a favor. So that game was on ABC. It was a Saturday showcase game against Oklahoma City. I actually have kept a DirecTV DVR in my garage that is no longer working because they changed the technology since then, because that game is on the DVR. That game on ABC that particular Saturday is on that DVR, and I loved that shot so much. I kept it to show anyone who ever wanted to talk about Steph Curry in a world before we just simply shared links amongst text messaging and you had to show somebody that. I swear to you that DVR is still here because of that moment. And while you're here on YouTube, please look it up. All you have to write, I believe all you'd have to search is Steph Curry OKC. Much like with Klay Thompson OKC, you're going to get a lot, but Steph Curry OKC, you're going to get that shot. And while you're at it, one other, by the way, because he's not necessarily remembered for what he does with handling the ball. Everyone associates Steph with 3-pointers from that same season. Steph Curry ruins Chris Paul. Type that into YouTube, please. Steph Curry,
yes,
whirls around Chris Paul in a way that I swear you have forgotten. Because of what he's done behind the line so often, you have forgotten what he can do with the ball in his hands near the basket as well. Please look up Steph Curry ruins Chris Paul and just marvel at who Steph Curry is to this league. You can argue that Steph Curry is more influential to this league by almost anyone but Michael Jordan.
I'm not going to say it's the very first morning I ever woke up in her apartment, but it was among them. Jillian and I had just started dating, and her apartment was on Upper Fillmore, right across from Fillmore, Jackson, Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
And we went down to the Elite Cafe. It's no even longer the Elite Cafe anymore, but we went down to that New Orleans spot on Fillmore for a little brunch right after that. But we were sitting there, I'm watching, and she's just getting to know me. And I'm like, well, I cover the Warriors. I got to watch this. I'm like, she's like, can we go to lunch? And she, in that moment, was like, holy shit, he hit that shot. And that's why I'm like, all right, you and I.
It's going to work out.
This is going to work out. You appreciate how great that was. This is going to work out. There was never mind, no more double bang jokes. Anyways, it was wonderful to hang out with you, my man, Sam Betesh. Everyone, seriously, go like and subscribe. You'll be happy that you did. You get Sammy, you get Siciliano. It's Thinking Out Loud on YouTube. Thank you for being here today and part of the show. That is your day in history. Have a double bang Thursday, everyone. And remember, we got Warriors basketball back tonight. They're opening up that road trip in Orlando, a 5-game roadie. It's going to take them through Philadelphia. Dude, the 76ers are the biggest false prophets in the sport right now. Shut down Joel Embiid. And if you can be lucky enough to, I would try to trade Joel Embiid and Paul George for pennies on the dollar. And I will say this too. When we talk about and write the book of most overrated sports entities in our lifetime, one of the first 3 chapters should be about Daryl Morey.
It is so true.
Who has done less and has a better reputation than that guy?
I, for a decade, have been telling my family in Philadelphia, when the second round of the playoffs begins, I write to every one of them, welcome to the NBA Finals. Because that is it. That's when the playoffs end in Philadelphia. The second round begins. The conference semifinals. Welcome to the NBA Finals if you root for a Philadelphia basketball team. You are right about Daryl Morey, and you are right for anything you're saying about the Sixers being a false prophet. Because in my lifetime, the greatest thing the Sixers have ever done is to lose to the Lakers in 5 games in the NBA Finals. The Tyronn Lue step over AI. So Iverson is my basketball hero for Philadelphia. And again, everything shouldn't be measured on championships, but Joel Embiid, you've never been technically on one of the 4 best teams in basketball. 4. Remember, if you make it to the conference finals, you are one of the 4 best teams in basketball. So you have to know, as a Sixers fan, you have rooted for this team, and they have never proven to be one of the 4 best teams in the league. That includes losses to Trae Young and the Hawks. That includes losses to the Knicks. Forget about what the Celtics did. Forget about the bouncing on the rim Kawhi game. This team is not worth your energy.
By the way, another reason why Sammy hasn't thrown away that old Direct TV DVR is he's got a Mo Cheeks compilation a tribute, and there's also a Ron Hextall Life of on NHL Network, which 7 people watched, but it's Sam's favorite show of all time. Thank you very much for watching today's show. Sammy, be good, man. Let's do this again sometime real soon. In the meantime, everyone, thank you so much for watching, for listening. Like and subscribe across both channels, please. And do remember that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, there